Hello. We are excited to welcome Spencer Israel to the inaugural edition of the RazReport. Spencer Israel is an editor and a producer of the PreMarket Prep and an editor at Benzinga. Spencer, thank you for coming on today.
Jason, am I the first RazReport guest?
As of now, unless Mitch deletes you out, one of our editors out of post-prod. So as of now,
I'm honored. Thanks for that.
Hopefully it doesn't stick on the cutting room floor. But Spencer, you're at Benzinga. How many years have you been at Benzinga for?
That's 5 years.
5 years.
5 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you have an exciting role, but I want to take people back to where you're from. Okay. Benzinga is headquartered in Michigan, but you're not from Michigan. Where are you from?
I am from the great state of New Jersey. I was one of the few Benzinga employees. I don't know if I still am, but I used to be one of the few Benzinga employees not from Michigan. So yeah, I moved out from New Jersey to Michigan in the fall of 2015, Labor Day weekend, and the rest is history.
Got it. And how did you hear of Benzinga?
Oh gosh, I don't even really remember.
All right. Well,
I think I heard about you. It was a friend of the family, a friend of my dad's. I don't really remember, but one thing led to another, and next thing I knew, I had a car full of stuff, and I was on the road. So
it's funny, 5 years ago. So yeah. You're from Jersey. Were you interested in like growing up? Like what was your passion? What were you passionate about? Were you a golfer, basketball? Were you the starting basketball point guard at your high school?
I was the starting quarterback and starting point guard and starting pitcher. No, I had always, I loved sports growing up and realized early on, like most Jewish kids do, that I couldn't earn a living playing sports, but I could potentially by writing about sports. And I was always a good writer. I always liked to write. So I had thought that I was going to be in the sports media, and I had various internships that reflect that, USA Today, Sports Illustrated, Baltimore Sun, and I had thought that my path was to be in the sports media, and working in financial media was not on my radar at all until Benzinga, and against all odds, I actually discovered that I love it. I actually love it more than I loved working in sports media. Financial media is way more interesting. So that's sort of how I ended up.
It's funny, you try something, you never know if it's going to be your passion. I remember my sister was a horseback rider, and I went horseback riding with them a couple of times. It didn't work out for me. I didn't like it, but this thing you liked.
I didn't think I would ever do anything other than sports, but here we are, and I don't ever want to go back.
Yep, no. So then where'd you go to college?
University of Maryland. So I'm New Jersey.
What was your major?
I majored in journalism. So journalism was always on the cards for me. It was always what I wanted to do. Writing online media in some cross-platform type of way. But I always knew that journalism was going to be in the cards. It was just a question of how and doing and covering what.
Okay. Spencer, this is what happens. So did you do like internships though? You're at Maryland, you were in high school, you liked journalism. Did you work for your yearbook? Were you the editor? Give me that. I want to hear how this happens.
Oh man. So back when newspapers were a thing, I wrote for my local newspaper. They had a section called the teen scene, and it was specifically for kids in the high school, who were interested in journalism, and you could write articles and they got published in the paper. So that was my
Was that your local paper or the high school paper?
Yep. That was my local paper. I did that when I was 16, I think.
How often did you have a post-in, or how many like a bunch?
I think it was through 4 or 5 articles. My first article was all about parents being on Facebook and how I was so angry that parents were on Facebook. I couldn't imagine it being for anything other than kids. But so teen scene. And worked for this school paper, obviously, went to college, had internships at, USA Today, Sports Illustrated, Baltimore Sun, then another local paper, and worked at the local the college radio station, did that. So I made my way around the industry a little bit.
Did you get exposure at those publications other than the teen scene to write articles and be published on the site all the time?
Yep. One of the coolest things, I was on my way home from spring break, and we stopped to get gas. And in the gas station was USA Today, and I knew that I had written an article that was going to be published. I just didn't know when. And they had, it was like their special college football preview or something. I don't remember what. And I was in the gas station. I was just digging through the newspaper, and my article was in there.
That's cool.
And I was like, huh, this is awesome.
That's cool. And that's like, we publish to a lot of newspapers, and seeing our name in the press is very cool. That's cool.
Never get told. Never get told.
Did you save that paper?
I have several copies, yes.
Okay, you have it somewhere. So I want to make sure.
Somewhere, yeah.
Okay, so I make sure you have copies, digital copies, in case something happens. Okay, so then you go to Maryland, and journalism is your major the whole way through. Did you think that you may go to law school, or did you think, or you're always wanted to be
No, I actually, it's funny because I did flirt with the idea of switching to business at the last second. I flirted with that for a couple of days, but then I thought, no, let's just do journalism, and I'll see where that takes me. I do have several friends that used journalism school, as a gateway to law school or other master's programs. But not to say I didn't necessarily want to do that, but I didn't think that far ahead. I kind of just thought, okay, I'll do this and I'll see where it takes me.
Got it. How old were you when you moved to Michigan?
I'm 29 now.
Okay.
So
24?
I was 24 when I moved.
How has Detroit and Michigan been for you over the years? Like that's a pretty big change from Jersey. Mm-hmm. What part of Jersey were you in?
I'm from Central Jersey, which is a thing. Some people might say it's not, but Central Jersey definitely exists and it is real. I grew up about 40 minutes from New York City, an hour from Philadelphia, and Michigan has been Detroit. It's fantastic. I don't live in Detroit anymore. I moved out to the suburbs a couple of years ago, but I lived in Detroit, and it's funny because even in the 3 years I lived in Detroit, drive past neighborhoods and they would have changed since I was last there. And if I drive past the house where I first moved to, the neighborhood is totally different now from when I lived there, and that was only 5 years ago. And the neighborhood has a park, and it's totally different and revitalized, and that's really cool because having not been here for that long, I can already say, oh man, I've seen the recovery, which is weird, but.
So you've seen Detroit recovery resurgence over the years.
For sure, definitely. People made fun of me. My friends were like, "Why are you going to Detroit of all places?" But my answer was, "Why not?" So.
No, I mean that's I like your attitude, and I guess we'll migrate to Benzinga and work. You've been here. You were with us 5 years ago, and you're here today. What has been the biggest change you've seen at our company?
I mean, the culture has definitely changed. 5 years ago, I think we identified as more of a startup, and that things were definitely a little freewheeling. There wasn't necessarily as much structure and processes as there is now. But as we've grown,
is that bad? Like that there's more of these processes?
No, I think it's just a sign of maturation a little bit, right? Okay. We've been around now for 10 years, and so in the 5 years that I've been with the company, we've matured. We have systems, we have processes. Yep. We've brought in new people from other industries, from people who have real experience and know how to do their jobs. So definitely a little bit, and that comes also with moving to being downtown Detroit, being in a place of business, in an office building surrounded by Quicken. It comes with that, but definitely more mature as a company than we were when I first got here.
Yeah, in an urban setting. I mean, we're right downtown.
Right.
Do you like I have this thing like work hard, play hard, or build hard. I don't like to use the word work. Do you have the ability to create stuff here on a daily basis?
Yeah, that was one of the weird things that took some getting used to, was the idea that I could, if I wanted to, I could just do something. And so I remember one of the first projects that I had here. It was me getting that project was the result of me just knocking on your door and saying, "Hey, can I listen to this call that's about to happen?" And you said, "Sure." And so there was like 10 people in the room, and the call ended, and you looked around and you're like, "Okay, who can do what we just talked about?" And people were like, "No, I'm busy. I got stuff. No." And it got to me, and I was like, "I got nothing else to do. I'll do it." I had nothing else to do.
Yeah. So, and that was the start of it.
Yeah, and me just asking if I could listen to a phone call, it sort of became my first project, and so that took a little bit of getting used to. Coming from the world of media where things can be very rigid and structured in terms of what you do on a day-to-day basis and your responsibilities. The idea that I could just start something if I wanted to do it was an adjustment.
Yeah, and I want to remind our guests, we have Spencer Israel with us, who's an editor at Benzinga, also the producer of PreMarket Prep, the show from 8 to 9 a.m., premarketprep.benzinga.com. You can also go to premarket.benzinga.com. And Spencer's been here for 5 years, moved here from Jersey, lives in Michigan now, and has seen everything. And I know you said knocked on my door, but I maybe used to have a door. Now I sit out in the in the whatever you call it, the area where everyone sits. Now I have a couple random questions. So is there what was your first or worst job? Like some of the answers I've gotten were people that they had to clean the garbage at the end of an elementary school day. I got a lot of interesting ones. If you don't have any, then just give me your first job.
I'll think of a better one. I'm sure half hour from now after the fact.
Or your first job. Make it easy.
Yeah. My first job was I got paid under the table to be a soccer referee. I got paid straight cash every weekend, $15 a game.
I don't even think that's under the table.
To referee. No, I literally used to get like an envelope of cash. Like,
okay, that's funny.
Yeah, at the end
that's
of the day.
funny. And you're like good at soccer. You knew how to ref it.
I mean, I played a little growing up, and I knew the rules. And as long as you're 3, 4, 5 years older than the kids, it's fine.
So, yeah. So, and how long did you do that for?
I think like a couple of years. My first real job where I got a paycheck. I was a summer lifeguard at the local one.
You were?
Yeah.
So you're like a good swimmer and all that stuff?
I mean, shallow water park, only 5 feet deep. You have to be able to. You have to just know how to swim, pretty much.
Did you save any lives?
No. The closest I ever came was I did have to jump in. A little kid got swept up in the lazy river and was having a hard time, and so I just had to run ahead of him in the river and jump in and let him come to me.
Saving lives. Okay, now couple quick things. You mentioned Facebook and parents on Facebook 5 years ago or 8 years ago, and you were anointed parents on it. What's your take on Facebook these days?
Well, I think Facebook is. I mean, I wrote that article I think in 2005, so 2006, 2007. I don't remember when, but things have changed a lot since then. My take on Facebook is that they have a duopoly, right, with Google in terms of the digital advertising market. It's not their fault that they're so good at it and that they control such a large audience. I think they clearly command a lot of attention and they have a massive user base. But I'm a little concerned that the regulators are going to take a harder look at the company and their reach. And the spinoffs can be good things. It wouldn't shock me if the government came and said, "Hey, you need to spin off WhatsApp. You need to spin off Instagram." That wouldn't surprise me. But Facebook could just spin it off and use it to raise more money. So
okay. But I know it was 15 years ago, but now are you okay with parents on Facebook?
Ironically, sure. Yeah, I'm not really on Facebook anymore. Actually, about a month ago, I deactivated my account, I suspended my account. So I could still go back there if I choose to, but for now, I'm not signed in. It's off my phone, and my account is deactivated. So
it's interesting. Spencer, I maybe go to Facebook once every few weeks or I didn't go for 3 months.
Yeah.
And now I go for like maybe once, and I spend less than 5 minutes every 2 weeks. I mean, not even
crazy, right?
Yeah. I do look at Instagram though.
Yeah. Well, so I kind of miss the Instagram boat, but it is funny how I feel like I felt like that I grew up on Facebook to an extent, and I just wasn't getting any value out of it anymore. Aside from
same way, I think Facebook is about bragging. That's what I think.
Yeah, and keeping tabs on your friends' birthdays. But
that's right.
But I wasn't getting any value, so I deactivated it, and I could always go back if I want to, but I see no reason to do that right now.
All right, that's interesting. And do you use like TikTok or any of those other applications?
No, I don't use TikTok. I am addicted to Twitter and to Reddit, and I use both of those for my news. and I could never quit either of those things, unfortunately. Facebook so far has been a pretty easy thing to quit.
Would you be willing to pay Twitter a monthly fee?
Yeah, I've thought about that. I say no now, but if push came to shove and I was forced to, I probably would.
Okay, that's good. Twitter, if you're out there listening, send Spencer a bill. He'll pay. Okay, I know we're trying
I just don't know if I have a choice. I mean,
yeah. Okay. Anything? Couple more, two more questions or three more questions. A day in the life of Spencer Israel at Benzinga,
sure.
and you don't have to give exact details, but just
Okay.
general themes of what you do, and then what gets you excited about the future of the company, I guess.
All right. I get in the office. First thing I do is hop into Benzinga Pro. I look at what stocks are up, what stocks are down. From around 6:45 to 7:45 in the morning, I'm just looking at news, overnight headlines. What did I miss from the day before? What happened overnight? Figuring out what stocks are moving and what we're going to talk about on pre-market prep that day. So I do my prep for an hour. I set up the show, talk with Joel and Dennis, sort of map out what we're going to talk about for the day. What's in the news, what stocks are moving, what trades did we see, and just sort of map that out. So the first few hours of my day is the prep, and then the actual show itself. And then from around 9:15 to 9:45, that's my my catch up, my email, my map out my daytime, and then I've got a daily meeting at that time, and then pretty much from 10 until 3 is editing, writing, research, communicating with clients, just doing all the things I have to do as an editor, as the person who oversees Benzinga's partner content, just writing content for third parties, making sure we're republishing what we need to republish, just sort of doing all the things we need to do to sort of oversee that part of our editorial department. And then we do a little afternoon show, 3:40 to 4 on YouTube, Joel Elkanan and myself. And from 4 till the end of the day, it's back to editing, writing, research, whatever I need to do to.
Okay. Any last things you want to add? I know we went over our limit, but we'll see what Mitch does.
No, and this is weird for me because I'm usually the one asking the questions, and I can count on one hand the number of times that I've been interviewed before. So I hope I made you proud.
You did. This is weird for me too. I realized there's some things that are harder than I thought because I sometimes get the questions asked. Like I definitely did not say your name and what you do here enough. So if someone just pop in, I guess Mitch can put on the bottom Spencer Israel, and your Twitter and all that stuff. But I didn't do any of that stuff.
Everyone always thinks it's easy.
Yeah, I know. Exactly. Like, why didn't you say their name more times? This is Spencer Israel. Let's get that straight. No, you were great. Really excited to have you on the RazReport, and would love to keep you, keep apprised of your progress here. And maybe in 3 months you come back on and tell us something new you built or some traffic numbers or something that you're excited about. So I'd love to keep the door open. If you think I'm an okay interviewer, then we can, have you on again in about 90 days or less.
Well, I'll come back when my beard gets like down to here.
Are you ever going to cut that?
Probably not.
All right. Well, thank you for coming on, Spencer. We'll talk to you later. Have a good day.
Thanks a lot, Raz.
All right. I'm really excited to welcome to the RazReport, Jonathan Mallard, Sales Manager of Benzinga Pro. Jonathan, thanks for coming on.
Hey, thanks for having me here, Jason.
Yeah. So it looks like you're standing on the floor, like in the office. Is that correct?
Yep. This is where the magic happens.
Now, where is everyone, dude?
Yeah, we have a lot of people working remote, but there's 5 to 10 people here on a daily basis, holding down the fort.
Yep. But usually no COVID. You got a big crew there.
Yep.
Okay. So we're going to get into the Benzinga stuff and why Jonathan Mallard's here and why he's standing on the floor today. But I just want to take people back for a few minutes to where you came from. Just like, where are you from? Where, what state, where you grew up, and like high school you went to, a little bit of that, and like what your passion was growing up.
Yeah. So I grew up in Dearborn, Michigan, just outside of Detroit. That's the headquarters of Ford Motor Company. And I grew up going to a small private Christian school. So, one of 14 kids in my class growing up. So that's kind of unusual. Then I went to Dearborn High School, one of 3 public high schools in Dearborn. So go Pioneers.
Was that a tough thing to transition from a small school to such a big school?
It was the best thing ever because I was super weird in like middle school, had no friends, and then all of a sudden joined marching band and got all into music and theater and in high school, and it was a blast.
Wait, so you're not super weird anymore?
I mean, it depends on who you ask.
Okay. Okay. But it was the best thing ever. So it wasn't like kids picked on you and stuff. When you go from a school of 14, I mean, that's like a rude awakening.
Right,
Like
right. But for me, it was a good thing.
that's awesome. That's awesome. So you got into music, singing, all that stuff. So can you
Yeah.
sing?
Sometimes I'm not very good with lyrics. My wife always makes fun of me because she knows the lyrics better than I do.
Like, what was your favorite high school song back in the day?
I mean, I was always listening to 89X, so like alternative rock, and went to 89X Birthday Bash,
I
and
was
then I was in West Side Story, the musical.
perfect. That's where I was going. So sing me a note from West Side Story.
I guess one that a lot of people would know would be like
And wait,
Maria.
no, hold on, hold on. Don't do that. I want you to, if we're gonna be here, again, we go hard at Benzinga. We go work hard, we play hard, we go hard. So I want you to take a second, feel that stomach muscle pull up, and give it a note. I want the people in the office next door to hear you with that note. Let's go, give it a note, Jonathan Mallard.
I'm gonna make Alan go deaf over
We
here,
live,
but
we live one life. It's okay. Let them freak out. But that's what this is about. Let's go. Come on, put that mic close and let's pump it out.
see, this is the thing with the lyrics, but I mean, it's just one word, right? It's
Yeah, just one word.
Maria. Um, now I'm forgetting it, but Maria, 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 Maria.
That is good. Clap it up. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about Josh Groban, Jonathan Mallard. I don't know the difference. Let's get this on YouTube and get this to go viral. We take that note a little stronger. We get Ryan Faluna to play his guitar. We got a band here. That was awesome. Awesome. And no fear. You're in front of people. That was awesome. Okay. So you go to high school and you're in music, you're singing. Do you do any sports?
I ran cross country,
Wow.
a little bit of track.
What was your mile time? Sorry.
Mile time, I was running like 6-minute miles when I was in good shape.
6-minute miles?
So not fast like John G, but
Wow, he
okay.
could do a lot faster. Okay.
He ran like a 4-minute mile.
Yeah. Holy cow.
Yeah, like he's fast.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, okay. I'll get 4 minutes around the track once, maybe. Like, I'll take that all day. I'm trying to get back to that. Okay, so you're in high school, then like you're graduating. Now you're at graduation stage. What's next for you? What were you thinking?
Yeah, so I was going to be a music major in college. I played trombone and all of that. And then just switched plans and decided to work for a nonprofit in Texas for a couple years. So they did like Christian
how'd you find the nonprofit in Texas?
So they did these stadium events, one of which was at Ford Field here in Detroit. So a bunch of like church youth groups going with like bands and speakers for a weekend, and it was the parent organization of that company, basically.
Got it. And so you found it, and then you didn't go to college. You went to this thing for 2 years in Texas.
Yep. Yeah. So yeah, it was pretty wild. We were out there, just it was us, and then like the lot right next to us just was the biggest cattle ranch in East Texas. So there's more cattle than people in that area.
Wow. Okay. So you know how to like get cattle, like round them up and stuff?
No, I wasn't involved in that. But
but I thought maybe you like would see it and you'd learn. I just want to know in case we ever have a cattle outbreak in Detroit, we can call
you.
You
never know.
But you don't know that. Okay. I wish okay, that next time. Did you move back here after the Texas 2-year trip?
Yeah, so I moved back to Dearborn, went to U of M Dearborn for business, and then basically dropped out after a couple years and was just working at Panera, and I also worked for a credit union, and then ended up working for a church, a Presbyterian church, as a youth pastor for about 4 years, and that's where I met my wife.
So you met your wife at Michigan Dearborn or after the program you said?
So she was actually on a trip to Dearborn to do some construction work with a college group on the church.
Yep.
And so I was friends with some people there, and we met, and it was kind of funny. I think 3 different couples like with guys from Dearborn and girls from Ypsilanti, all ended up getting married within the next 5 years following that.
That's hilarious. How long?
Yeah.
Wait, was she like doing this construction thing for like, you saw her many times? Is that like?
It was like an alternative spring break trip thing. So we just like worked together on that project for a few days,
Yep.
and I became friends with her and a bunch of other people.
So I'm going to digress for a little bit, and I think it's important. So you mentioned like 3 guys and they got married from that. Meeting your wife, a lot of people met their wives at work. Like that's because they're with them all the time.
Mhm.
Well, now there's changes because of the social dynamic in a workplace. It's interesting. Like what you met your wife is a total reasonable way to meet your wife. And I just don't know if that's going to happen as much when people are doing work together. Like, I mean, you guys were working a little bit together. You were doing that. And I just don't know. You know what I mean? Like, think that'll change.
I mean, it's crazy. Like it's a whole different world these days. Like fast forward 1 decade and everything's different with all the apps and stuff.
It's yeah. And so there's a lot of other ways for people to meet. That's true. That's true. See, we got a little Joe Rogan in us. We little migrate and move around a little bit. So it's okay. So then you meet your wife, you get married, and where are you at in life? Like you were doing stuff more volunteering, church related stuff?
Yeah, so I was working basically part-time for the church. Then I got back into school, went to be an economics major because they wanted me to retake 15 credits, and I was like, forget that. So I was an econ major, still working for the church. We got married, and then I graduated from college.
You did. So was it Michigan Dearborn?
Yep, UM
Okay, cool.
Dearborn, and then we had our first child. We had
Congrats.
our son, all in the same week. So there was big changes there.
That was a big week.
Yeah.
That was a big week. Son graduated. And
Yeah.
so now were you like, what the heck am I going to do? Or were you like, did you have a path when you graduated?
So at that time, basically I started working part-time for a different church. My wife was a full-time school teacher, and I was also taking care of our son, Caleb, full-time.
Okay.
So then after a few years, my wife was transitioning out of teaching, and I got involved in sales. That's how I started selling life insurance. And I was actually prospecting, all over the place, going to different meetups or whatever. And there was this marketing and sales meetup held at Benzinga. And so that was the first time I heard of Benzinga. I just showed up just to meet people and find out about sales and marketing. And so I was like, these are cool people. I'd be interested in working here. And so I talked with Patrick Lane. He was the first person I talked to, and he set up a call with another sales manager.
Was he at the meetup?
He was. I met you actually. I met Bert and I met Patrick.
Okay.
All at that meetup.
Got it.
And Luke. Luke is offended because I didn't mention him.
Okay, so tell him to get back to work. Okay, so you went to the sales meetup, and this is interesting. So you got into doing some sales, and you were doing the volunteering stuff, and you did life insurance. When you came to the sales meetup, were you selling life insurance at the time?
Yeah, I was. I was still working on that, but it wasn't going so great. So I was looking for some other gig. And
when you say it wasn't going so great, was it because the market was slow? You didn't like it? What was it? Because here's the thing that I see in a lot of people sometimes, something's not going great and you have a few options. Either you have to choose, do you want to, meet the challenge and like try to figure out another way, or it's not going great and you also don't like what you're doing at all. And so you want to move on to something else.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't hate it. It was my first sales gig. And in that company, everybody was an independent contractor, and there wasn't enough structure, I think. So not enough discipline on my part. And so I did really well the first 3 months, and then I just wasn't disciplined enough, and I was losing money. I was burning through cash. So
you're burning through cash. Do you mean, why do you say that? Are you saying because you spent money, or you needed to pay bills and stuff?
I needed to pay a bill. I wasn't making enough money.
Yeah, got it.
I sucked. I mean, that was basically it. So I didn't hate sales, but I knew I needed something different.
Yep, got it. I want to remind people we're with Jonathan Mallard, sales director for Benzinga Pro. That's benzingapro.com. So where we're at is, Mallard, you came into a sales meetup at Benzinga. Did you right away, you met some people, and did you join us like a few weeks later, or how did it work out?
Yeah, I mean, they set up a call maybe within the next week or two after that meetup, and the call went really well. I had a sense of urgency in just finding something that would work out. So I just asked the right questions on the interview, like, "Hey, when are you guys going to follow up with me?" And
Good.
and uh, and they asked, "Well, if what does it have to, how long do you have?" And I said, I'll probably move on to another opportunity within the next 2 weeks. Um, and so it was just a good match, because even though there wasn't a firm job description ready for me when it came in, I think they just saw that I was ready to go, and it was a good learning experience.
Yeah, no, I hear you on that. And I like that move of saying I'm going to move on to something else in the next week or two or whatever. Another method people can do out there, if they're looking for an opportunity, they find the company, you could literally say, guys, if you don't mind, just let me come in for a few days. You don't need to pay me. Just let me just hang out and like see the culture or see this, or then
That's
see what
good.
I can do. And it's not, the idea is not to force for free labor at all. Like that's not at all. It's the idea of you wanting the opportunity. There was a job a long time ago that I wanted. It's actually how I met Dan Gilbert way back when. And they had me do a project. And this project took me 3 weeks, and I had to spend money on it to hire people to help me do the financial modeling. So I wasn't investment banking at the time, and I didn't know how to do the modeling. I did all that work for free. Like I spent money and spent 3 weeks. I did all for free because I wanted the opportunity.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times people want opportunities and they don't go that extra length to prove it. Now your case is different. We moved fast and everything, and like it just, you just never know is what my point. You never know. But how'd it go when you started here is what I'm saying. Like the first few weeks, how was that? Was that total
It
like
was
culture
wild.
shock? Was it a culture shock? Because I know you and I have had our conversations, because I'm always like,
Right.
radical candor and like seek to understand first. And so we had like our moments, and
Right.
and we can be frank about it. We did. I mean, we haven't had those in a long time, but the seek to understand and the clarity, because the funny thing is, like, a business and a sports team are very similar. And like to me, like we're all on the same, I don't want to say the Lions because they're not too good, but we're all on the same football team.
Right.
We're all on the same football team. We have an offense, defense, special teams, right? And some things like weren't moving as fast, and you were getting frustrated, as I was. But you would think,
Right.
you never know who the bottleneck is. I don't know. Tell us a little bit about we have about 6 minutes left. Tell us about like your beginning days here and like some of that culture shock, and then
Yeah.
and then we can talk a little bit about the later days and what's going on now.
Yeah. So I started cold calling hedge funds, trying to sell them our alternative data products. And it was very much like immediately introduced me to the culture of, take action first and figure out all the details later. I mean, there's strengths and weaknesses in being organized before you jump into something. And that was a growth area for me, where I just needed to take action, take it faster, and then learn through that experience. So that was really good training for me. It kind of made me who I am today. And then when I switched over to working on Benzinga Pro some more, it enabled me to make a higher frequency, or more calls in a shorter period of time, and just get more and more comfortable with sales and figuring stuff out along the way. So and I can definitely see points along the way in the past 2.5 years where, whether it's for the Benzinga Pro product or for the licensing product, we just keep working at it and then finding innovations along the way on how we do things.
Yep. And Jonathan, if someone listening wants to test out Benzinga Pro, how can they reach you?
Yeah, they can reach us. I mean, anyone can test it for free at pro.benzinga.com. Or, they can always reach out to our team at 313-915-5155.
313.
Yep, 313-915-5155.
Got it. Okay. So you came here and you've been to other places. How does our culture, and I know you're talking to me, and so I really, it's like I'm not trying to like, I want you to be truthful. Like, do you
Mm-hmm.
have ability to experiment and innovate at our company?
Oh, yeah.
Like, do you like, I was laughing when you said that when you were doing the life insurance thing, you didn't have much process, or you weren't self-disciplined enough, or there wasn't much stuff in place. And I was laughing because I would argue here that we need a lot more process in place. We need a lot more analytics in place, and part of it is the way I started the company was, I begged, borrowed, and stealed and went after business and didn't and so I thought I'd hire people like myself that just, hustle or scrappy and figure out a way to make it happen. And I learned over time that's not ideal for everyone. And so people like you have helped put some more organization into place and, do manuals and stuff. But tell us what you like about it or don't like and stuff like that.
I mean, yeah, it was definitely a stressor earlier on, but I think a lot of people who are coming from non-startup roles, they don't understand what it's like to be a part of a startup, or and so that's something where I really gained a lot of respect for you, Jason, over the years, and the other builders here that really built this company into what it is. Just realizing, it's hard. It's hard to build a company from the ground up. I was like, hey, yeah, this or that is sort of crazy. But if we didn't have seemingly crazy people who were willing to do seemingly crazy things, then we wouldn't be here as a company, or we wouldn't be the company that we are today.
So that's, we're an 8-digit business now, and it's a different thing that gets you from the first base to second base, that get, or first inning to third inning, whatever you want to say. And we take a day one approach to how we approach things. But like, there's so many things that we can improve upon and fix and grow and then move faster on. One of the things that I know you and I hit on is product and development. And I know we're excited about that, but like, we want it yesterday because there's so many problems that aren't being solved out there. And, one of the reasons I wanted you on the first show is because someone like you, I've seen the maturation process from someone that came on and, I know you're doing life insurance on your own. So this was a lot more structure in that regard, but also like sometimes like, why aren't we doing this? And like, you think, it's almost like you're thinking, Jason doesn't want to do this, or I don't want to do, not third person do, but I don't want to do this. But when you seek to understand, it's like, just haven't got to it. And we need people like you to take the helm and drive it, because money follows, it doesn't lead. Money follows, it doesn't lead. And what that means is it's important is that you build the thing and potentially big dividends can come from it. But if you don't, there's no dividend. So the first Benzinga Pro was bad. It didn't do a lot of things. And you build and you're like hoping, and our future pipeline we think will be 10x what it is today in terms of opportunity, or 100x actually, not 10x. It's people like you, because we're all going to get burned out in life at certain things that we're doing. Just like when you were in school and you didn't like whatever or this, we're all going to get burnt out. And I like companies like this versus working at a big company, is because I can rotate. I can rotate and pursue it. And what you said, Jonathan, I just wish everyone would hear, is that you had to learn more about just doing and not having all the facts together. Like people say to me like, oh, licensing or this or that, or I got to read. No, you just got to do. And startup founders who reach out to me, they like say, what book I should read? What book should I read? I'll tell them. But what I want to say is, close that book. Don't read that book. Don't just go do and fail. Go do and make mistakes. I had and that's what it comes down to, Jonathan. And if we're not failing or making mistakes, then we're not doing enough experiments. Jonathan's doing very well here, and the company is growing and doing really well. And the company can't grow and do really well without amazing people like a Jonathan Mallard. And I like that in the beginning. We kind of, it's true. I like in the beginning that we kind of butted heads. Partly why I like it is because it means you cared. It means you cared, but I also cared too, and so, but it means you cared, and then you seek to understand, and we all need pushes sometimes. Like we need pushes. So I want people to come to me and say, Jason, if we had that, like, and get a little animated. I'm not opposed to that. It's better in person than over, people resort to this text messaging and Slack and all these things too much. If you have a thing to talk about that's like, hey, this is one of those moments that could really change us, do it on the phone, do it in person, do it on Zoom, do it on whatever it is. Like because arguably, Jonathan, if we just did it on email or whatever, who knows what would have been, right? So I'm glad.
It's a lot easier just to cut off communication and walk away when really you need to kind of be settled in that uncomfortable state of like, no, we need to stay here and figure this out.
Yeah, and look what it's done. I mean, look what it's done. That's 18 months ago, 20 months ago, and look what it's done. I mean,
Yeah.
like the numbers that Benzinga does right now, I mean, it's incredible, you know, and that's why with Benzinga, you're just going to keep, you know, you find the wall and you break through it. That's the thing. There's going to be a lot of walls and a lot of negative things. It's the people that break through it and find the ways, and, you know, be it what it may, like wherever it is, you can find solutions to stuff. And there's people out there that have done similar things, and you go reach out to them. You're a hard worker. I get it. All right. You're a hard worker doing that, and now you're building something that you're not just like an employee. You're building something. You own the outcome of it, and it's like people talk about time off these days, and you can take time off, but like I bet you Jonathan's thinking about stuff all the time and trying to build, you know, the right product and the right things to triple, quadruple sales, double his income, you know, all that stuff. So any last parting words for advice for someone listening to this and looking to build the next great thing?
Whatever role you're in right now, whatever company you're working for, take a step back and try to treat it like your company, and look at however you can add the most value and take headaches away from the people who are above you at your company. If you treat it with ownership and take extreme ownership for things that are going on instead of making excuses, then eventually people are going to recognize that, and it's going to pay you dividends in one way or another. So yeah, that's my advice.
All right. No, that's great. That is great. Jonathan Mallard, Sales Director for Benzinga Pro. We are so glad you could come on the RazReport today. And by the way, he's on the sales floor. There's other people around there. Jonathan likes to stand on his phone calls, and he's there to help. And if you ever need anything, you can also email him at vipaccounts@benzinga.com. That's V as in Victor, IP accounts@benzinga.com. All right. Thank you, and have a great day.